Hello, everyone. Pastor Jamal Bryant stood at the center of a powerful spiritual ecosystem, a preacher whose voice carried far beyond the walls of his church, whose sermons blended social awareness, ambition, and charisma in a way that drew thousands. Yet, what many people fail to understand is how fragile influence becomes when it is built at the intersection of faith, visibility, and expectation. Because leadership in a church is not just about the pulpit, it is about trust, alignment, and the invisible agreements between a pastor and the people who believe in him. And when that alignment begins to fracture, the shift can feel sudden even if the warning signs have been quietly accumulating for years. And the shocking reality Jamal Bryant faced was not a dramatic overthrow or a single explosive moment, but the dawning awareness that authority can evaporate faster than it is built when perception changes. When voices that were once supportive begin asking different questions. And when the congregation starts to feel less like a unified body and more like a divided community searching for clarity, because churches, unlike corporations, are sustained by belief rather than contracts. And belief is deeply emotional, easily shaken when people feel unheard, confused, or spiritually disconnected. And those close to the situation noticed that the pressure on Jamal Bryant had been mounting long before it appeared to happen overnight. The weight of being a public-facing pastor in a digital age where sermons are dissected, personal choices are scrutinized, and leadership is constantly evaluated not just by scripture but by optics, tone, and timing. And in that environment, even minor misalignments can snowball into major challenges. Because a church is not just a place of worship, it is a living organism shaped by collective emotion. And once uncertainty enters that organism, it spreads quietly, changing conversations, shifting loyalties, and altering the atmosphere in ways that are difficult to reverse. And for a leader accustomed to directing vision, that loss of control doesn't announce itself loudly. It reveals itself in subtle ways. In resistance where there was once agreement, in silence where there was once enthusiasm, in the realization that influence is no longer assumed but questioned. And Jamal Bryant's reality was confronting the difference between holding a title and holding the confidence of a community. Because titles can remain intact even as trust erodes, creating a painful dissonance where leadership exists in name but not in spirit. And what made this moment so jarring was how quickly the balance shifted once that trust reached a tipping point. Because congregations move slowly until they don't. And when collective sentiment changes, it can feel like the ground gives way all at once, leaving leaders scrambling to understand how something that felt stable became uncertain so rapidly. And this experience forced Jamal Bryant into a space many leaders never publicly acknowledge. The space where reflection replaces certainty, where influence can no longer be commanded and must instead be re-earned, and where the calling that once felt clear becomes complicated by accountability, humility, and the uncomfortable realization that charisma alone cannot sustain a spiritual community. And whether this chapter becomes a moment of rebuilding, reinvention, or reckoning depends not on damage control or rhetoric, but on the willingness to listen, adapt, and confront the gap between intention and impact. Because churches do not collapse from a single sermon or decision, they strain under unresolved tension. And when that tension surfaces, it exposes how quickly control can slip away when leadership forgets that authority in faith spaces is always borrowed, never owned, and must be renewed daily through connection, transparency, and trust. Making this moment not just a crisis for Jamal Bryant, but a sobering reminder that spiritual leadership is among the most fragile forms of power, capable of vanishing not with noise, but with quiet certainty that something no longer feels right. Thanks for watching.